Super progressive. What is good? We're back with another podcast episode, and today we have a really special guest. This was a long time coming because ever since I started this podcast, I've seen our special guests in many different gigs around the world, and now we finally meet for a podcast. Special guest today, Nick Varon. Nick, how are you doing, man?
Hi man, how are you? Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming. I think I've been seeing myself in many videos that they became viral. They're more famous than my own videos. So it's so nice to be part of your podcast, and I would like to thank you also for for doing all this for our genre and for this specific sound.
No, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It's super exciting what you have going on. Really special, just entire year for you. 20 years behind the decks as a DJ. You are marking this very well-deserved anniversary with this event in Athens that's really special. It's a boat party that you're not only DJing, but kind of organizing yourself to celebrate 20 years behind the decks. Can you talk a little bit about what this event's going to be like? Because to me, it looks like something, all the gigs you do are special, but this looks something like really, really special.
Yeah, the thing is, this summer marks my 20th year as Nick Varon. I mean, my Nick Varon era is it's now 20 years old, but I started a few years back. I mean, the whole career it's about 24, 25 years. But when I switched to Nick Varon, which is Varon is taken from my mother's last name, which is Varonakis, um, is when I decided that I'm going through this path and I'm not looking back, and no matter what. So, I wanted to do something special, something different, something that I never did. So I found this boat last year. It was in the making. It's a brand new boat, which I really like, and it has the perfect size. It's for only 200 people, and I know the owners, I know the people there, and they're music lovers as well. So the guy runs it. It's a fan of mine, let's say. So I said this is the right thing to do, and I always was fond of the boat parties from the era that I used to go to Miami to listen to John and Sasha in the famous Miami boat parties. I said this is something I want to do, and to be honest, I'm lucky enough to do to do everything I wanted to do so far. The only thing I was really missing is it's a boat party. I did in Amsterdam during ADE, but this is something completely mine, let's say, something completely personal. And as you mentioned, I'm behind the production as well. Um, because I really like to see all the details by myself. I'm a kind of perfectionist, so yeah, we are like 10 days. It's on the 15th of June, the party, so I'm really excited. A little bit of stress, but excited.
Or- it sounds awesome. I mean, I can't imagine how much work has gone into it, but when it's something this big and this important to you, you want to have your kind of creative control on all different assets. Are you DJing open to close on the boat? Are you the only DJ booked for this?
Um, this is a decision that I'm more or less. It will be only me, but maybe I will have some open and some of the guys I used to bring over when I play in Athens. Some people that I really like, and I always like to push new talent and people that they deserve some time in the spotlight. Let's say. So most likely, somebody will have to do the warm up, and then I will have the time. I'm mostly doing it so I have the time to greet all the people that are coming, because most of there are a lot of friends, long time friends and fans. So I like to be able to spend a little bit of time with them as well.
Yeah, definitely. One like DJing question I have about this event, then we'll get
Yes,
into all of your backstory is
sure.
for an event that kind of celebrates everything you've done in your career, in some ways is looking
Yes,
back and reflecting. Does
yes,
your approach to the music, does looking back kind of show itself in your music preparation as well? Or because I know you as a DJ that's always, like a lot of the leading progressive DJs, always
yeah,
looking to the future, always
yes,
pushing new talent forward. always looking for the next evolution of the sound. But when you do an event that is kind of a celebration of 20 years, you're looking back a little bit. Are you also thinking about those tracks that have played a huge role in your journey and maybe digging deep in your record collection and saying like kind of discovering old gems that you remember during important parts of your career and maybe bringing them back for this special set?
Yes, to be honest, this event is something very, very personal and very, tempting I'm trying to involve all kinds of memories, music wise, and not only. And I think when I do long sets, I always like to have some classics in my sets included or not, depends on the set, the venue, and everything. But for this particular event, I will. Yes, it's true that I'm trying to bring back, to play some tunes that they really define me, or some reworks of tracks that they define my journey so far. But I don't know yet. I'm still working on the set. I mean, on the playlist that I'm doing for the set, and I think I haven't put so much work ever before because it's a new situation for me. I never did something like that. It's a milestone that I want to celebrate. Of course, as you said, the idea is always to progress as our sound, and the progress is what we're aiming for. But let's see what happens. For sure, I'm going to include some classics. Now I will see. I will have to see how many of them they can fit.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go. Let's go back to probably even before this 20 years of Nick Varon. I'm really interested
Okay.
in how you found this scene because you live your life, you end up dedicating probably more than half of your life to underground electronic music. I'm always curious about how it entered into your life for the first time.
Yeah, actually, I was involved with music. I love music. Like I took some piano lessons. Then I switched to the guitar. But I really like jazz, rock, nothing to do with electronic music. And I was trying to find something to express myself, like music wise, and connect with the people with the right way, let's say. So my brother and his friends, they were into psychedelic trance, the European side, let's say, some British and some Israelis as well. Artists like Juno Reactor, Tim Suld, Atmos. So when I listened to this music, I mean, it got my attention. It was a little bit fast for my taste, but the atmosphere was really getting my attention, and I started exploring, everything around that, and and searching and exploring. I ended up listening to some global underground mixes, which later became like my holy Bible, my music Bible, I would say. I mean, it's by far the biggest influence I ever had. The compilation, I think it's in my mind are the best compilation ever made. I mean, everything has changed now. The compilations they don't get appreciated as much as they used to be. But for me, that those compilations were defining, sound wise, inspiration wise. I'm very lucky to be able to discover them. So this is
Did,
how I ended up.
yeah. Did you have like a funny sense of pride that Danny Tenaglia's GU10 in Athens was one of the most celebrated of the series, but also one of the most unique with his ability to kind of blend between genres and not be so confined in a box. And, what are we almost over 25
Yeah,
years later? People still point to Athens as one of the standout mixes in the series.
yeah. Listen, I'll give you some tips about this compilation. This was recorded in a club in Athens called King Size. This club was owned by the owner that I used to play. I used to play for this guy. I mean, King Size became venue. The club I became resident, and this is how my career started. And so when this gig that Danny played, he was stopped by the police. The police entered the club. Danny wouldn't stop playing, and they entered the club, and they forced him to stop the music. It was a legendary night. It's not only a legendary compilation. It's a legendary night from the Athenian club life. So yes, I'm proud because I'm proud in general for Athens and for the Greek scene. When we talk about the progressive sound, and not only, I mean, not so much these days, but back in the days, late '90s and the beginning of 2000s, it's a massive era for the Greek nightlife when it has to do with progressive sound music and its history. So yeah, I'm kind of proud. Yeah, I would say I'm proud.
And you kind of give me and all of our listeners maybe like a little bit of a club history lesson when it comes to Greece, because one of the things that I find
Okay.
most interesting is um, one, when you look at the history of these different clubs, it goes so far beyond just Athens and Mykonos, even. Like you hear stories of the huge UK DJs like Sasha, John Digweed, even going to like Thessaloniki, these small
Yeah.
club, these cities that if you're not that you wouldn't think are clubbing destinations, and going and playing these amazing gigs, but it really comes down to the passion of the clubbers on these dance floors, and that this
Yeah.
country really embraced this sound. But if you had to
Yeah,
kind of
for
share
sure.
with us some of the most important clubs in terms of the development of the Greek scenes, this is stuff I love to go back and
Okay.
read
Yeah,
about
sure.
and look up clips about. So, what were kind of the leading clubs throughout the history of the Greek nightlife or Greek club scene?
Okay, I would say Faz. It should be the first one in Athens. Then we come to Plus Soda, King Size Venue. Um, we have Decadence in Thessaloniki, amazing club.
Oh,
We
Decadent.
have a
Yeah, I see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
That's where that is. Okay, I see all the clips
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. We call it decadence in Greece. Yeah, and in Thessaloniki, probably the most important club for the sound, for our sound. And then I would say Loka. Loka is a club in a town called Egio. I mean, it's closed now, but it has a history of 25 years. I don't even remember, but amazing club, like 2 hours away from Athens. A lot of history there as well. Sasa used to play a lot. We did some amazing gigs with Hernan also. Deep Dish played. Yeah, I mean, there are so many, and there are so many events in Greece that I could talk for many hours because from 1999 until 2006, I would say the progressive was by far the most important sound in the Greek club life. So it was huge, and the crowd was amazing. They really embraced the sound. So we had parties all over Greece, amazing parties. But if I had to mention some of the clubs, I think I'm not missing any other. Mamakas was a club that we did some when this is famous clip that became viral. We had some amazing events with Hernan as well. Um, I think I'm not missing any. Those are the ones.
Can you also kind of talk about what it was like when producers from Greece, there seemed to be this era of underground progressive, maybe this like 2000 to 2003 era
Yeah,
where the Greek progressive sound kind of took center stage at an international level, especially when you look at stuff like GU25 with Deep Dish in Toronto,
yeah, yeah.
where
Jipal,
G-Pal, Tone Depth, like all these
Tone
guys are
Depth.
like really prominently featured and kind of
Yeah.
shaping the sound of the top international DJs. What was it like to see the local producers kind of thrust into that international platform?
Listen, it's it's a very interesting question because those producers, Dusk, Jipal, Tone Depth, Cosmas Epsilon, Christian Canvas, those guys, they used to be, all the tracks that they did, it was like all the tracks, the most wanted tracks from the record box of all the important DJs, let's say. Although it was an era that the producers didn't get the appreciation that they get today. It was the game was completely different. You know, you used to listen to the tracks and you say, "Oh, this is." If Sasa was playing this track, they would say, "This is Sasa's track." You know, you didn't get to meet the producer. You know, now the game is completely, completely changed. Now the producer get the gigs. It's not like it used to be. So as as long as those producers were doing amazing music, they didn't get the credit they used to they deserve. They deserve. I mean, it was a completely different era. So you know, imagine if this was happening today. All those important DJs, all those producers producing today those tracks, the recognition and the credit would be way different.
It's crazy to think that someone, let's say like Guy J, wouldn't
Yeah,
like in that era, and that's
exactly.
obviously he's one of the most talented producers ever, but
Yeah,
he in today's era, he's obviously becomes one of the leading figures. It's really interesting to
exactly.
hear about. I'm interested too, and okay, you're a fan of this music.
Yeah.
Your first or one of your residencies, you were telling me before we started rolling was at Venue. How'd you,
Yes.
like, in terms of you transforming from a fan of this music to wanting to make your own contribution to this music? What was that? What was that like for you? Because so many of our listeners and so many people who love progressive music, I think it's the best thing about our community is that you take this music that you love, and because our scene is so DIY and it's so small at the end of the day, like you
Yeah,
can
it's small. Yeah.
actually feel like you can go and make your own contribution. How'd you decide to go and say, okay, this is something I'm going to contribute to, not just enjoy on the dance floor?
Um, as I said, when I got into this world of progressive house, I started buying vinyls. I used to travel to London many times to get all those rare vinyls that I couldn't get by living in Athens. All the those vinyls that you really wanted. All the famous DJs will have them, but the record stores wouldn't give them to you because the copies were a few copies for the good DJs, the well-known DJs. So anyway, I was so passionate, and I'm still am, but at this time, it was the community, the contact you had with the music was completely different. Go to the store, listen to the record, get the vinyl back home, all your savings for music. It's something very different. I don't think today with all this the digital thing going on, it's you can get so connected. You can connect with the music, but you cannot connect with so much and so deep with the process. So I really love music. I used to work in this club I mentioned, Venue. I used to be like working as a waiter, and the resident DJ was the owner that I mentioned before. He was the main resident DJ, and and then she was playing more mainstream. But after hours, he would go on the progressive sound borders, let's say. So I started every once, and then I will start giving him vinyls, saying, "You have to play this. You have to play this. Try this track." I mean, I was trying to convince him to try a little bit more underground stuff, let's say, which he would play sometimes. And then he figured out that he noticed that I'm a guy that is really passionate with music. So when one of the residents, there used to be three, he left. He decided to do something different. He recommended me as his replacement. And the owner, Vasily, said, "Yeah, this is a guy. We want this guy." And this is how I started playing. And then I would start playing very early, at the beginning, when nobody was there. But the idea was to make a statement with my sound. I was playing, very deep stuff, hypnotic, prog stuff, but I was trying to fit in a mainstream club and at the same time creating my sound identity. And I think this is the right path for everyone to do. It's it's very difficult. You enter, you take the opportunity to play somewhere. At the beginning, you have to study a little bit what's going on in the place you are going to play. I'm not talking about the producers, because now you get called to play, you get the gigs, but the productions you make. But for a DJ, the game is completely different. You have to demonstrate that you have that you can be diverse, you can adapt, and you have a unique sound. And I think this is the way. This is what I did. It worked for me, and I think with all the people that I know, not only about our genre and our style, I think this is the most important thing, and this is the way.
I think a lot of up and coming rising DJs can learn from your perspective because one thing that you've seemed to keep alive in your career that on an industry level has disappeared from our scene is the idea of being a resident DJ and
Yeah, exactly.
really building a connection and understanding a dance floor that you play to routinely. Can you explain a little bit about how maybe like how you've been able to in such a changing landscape in our scene been able to keep this kind of at the center of your DJ career and the benefits of what a residency has for your own DJing ability?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I will start from the second part of your question. I think the residency, having a residency in a place, it gives you a lot of time and a lot of space to build your music identity and to gain a lot of confidence. Because when you get to play to the same environment, it might be the same environment, but every night is different. So, okay, most of the places they get, the funds you get. I mean, I used to be resident in venue for 3 years. Then I had a residency, another club in Athens for 6 years, another one for 8 years. Now I'm having 5 years at NOM in Barcelona, an amazing project. And you have to challenge yourself. You don't have to be comfortable when you have a residency. A residency, it's very, very important, not only for you, but you have to think to the total of the night. You're playing and somebody else is playing, is coming after you. It's very important to not be in a rush to get in the spotlight. The people, the fans will appreciate more a proper opening of a proper warm-up DJ than someone that he will enter will try to demonstrate that I can play all the big records, and start playing peak time records and get the attention. This is the wrong way. So I think one of the keys is patience, faith to your sound, to your approach, and what I used to do, and I'm still doing it. I mean, I'm not playing so much now with like early slots, but when I do, I always try to study the lineup. I try to study what's coming up, what's coming next, and that's it. You have to be patient, and you have to, there's so many music out there. You can play an amazing deep progressive set. I will I will stick with a progressive term. So, deep progressive, hypnotic progressive, melodic progressive. You don't have to be like the most easy to do, the easiest part is to play the big records, big time records. Banging records is it's it's the easiest part of DJing. It has always been. And if you allow me, for me, it's the most boring also. Because playing 10 big records that they work, they're going to walk, and people, they're going to dance, they're going to scream. Everybody can do that. The thing is to get them to scream in the right moment. The process, the process. I think it's a lot of us, they relate this music. It's a trip music, and it's like that. For me, it's the most completely genre and production wise as well. I mean, if we do a breakdown and see how many things are added in a progressive house track comparing to, I don't know, melodic techno or tech house, you can see it. I mean, it's there's no secret there. It doesn't make it, because sometimes less is more. It doesn't make it more important or nothing. It's just the style we like, and it's like it's like it talks to our soul more than the other styles, and that's it. So there's no competition between styles. But this specific style, I think, uh, this is the right approach. You have to be patient, and you have to. That's why you need time when you play. Doing 1 hour set in progressive, it's nothing. Well,
Um,
anyway, I can talk for
no,
hours
no,
about this. So
and
let's.
I really want to pick your brain because you've played so many different roles in this
Yeah,
throughout your career. One, so many up and coming DJs and like rising talents ask me. I never have the answers. All I can do is pass on the advice because I get the chance
exactly.
to speak to so many, accomplished DJs like yourself. They ask me like, how do I progress progress my career? And I always point to a piece of advice that both Hernan Catano and Casey Taylor have spoken about with me, which is the best thing you can do for your DJ career at a young age is play a respectful quality opening set for an international DJ that's visiting your dance floor. And in scenes that I've seen, in clips that I've seen of you, whenever I'm looking at a clip from the early 2000s in Greece, there's a young Nick Varon right there who has seemingly warmed up his local dance floor for the international talent that's coming, whether it's Hernan or whether it's someone else. But would you
Yeah.
say that that advice rings true today to up and coming DJs?
Listen, this nobody has all the answers.
Right.
We're all in the search, and that's why life is interesting. Otherwise, it would be really boring. The thing is, Hernan is a great example because it's one of the few that he was, regardless all the recognition and all the credit he got, he always he has been faithful to his sound when everybody, abandoned the ship at some point, more or less. So we have to separate, you know, some things. We have to distinguish producers and DJs because it's something different. So when we are talking about upcoming artists, uh, those are two different things. And what I see today, and now I know that I'm entering in something different other than your question, but this is a natural chat, so I'm going wherever this takes me. What I'm seeing is the lack of good DJs. They're amazing producers, but I don't see any great DJs, and that's why all those legends that you mentioned now and then in this conversation in super progressive, that's why they've been around so many years, and that's why are on top level. They are extraordinary DJs. This is something I can tell you with my confidence at 100%. My problem today as a listener, when I want to, I used to be a clubber and I still go out to listen to good music. My problem is where I'm going to listen. For me, it's not go to listen a producer that he would gonna play all of his tracks in 3 hours. This, for me, it's not tempting at all. I'm staying at my house. I wanna listen to the things that I don't expect to listen. I think the great quote from John Digweed that explains that. I will send it to you later. But the thing is, the mystery. You the other day you uploaded a video from. I forgot to mention before, and it's a big mistake. I forgot to mention Cabo Paradiso in Mykonos, from the most important clubs. We're talking about a legendary club. You uploaded a DJ set from John Digweed. He played 11 hours, vinyl times. So, you know, I don't know. I don't see any good DJ. No, there are good DJs. I don't see DJs that they can blow my mind, you know. The other day, I went to listen to Laurent Garnier in Barcelona, and she blew my mind, you know. I went back home and I said, "What's I'm doing something wrong, you know. This is what I'm missing." And I think this is what people, but it's a completely new world now. So, but I still have faith in music. We have to keep our faith in music. This is the only way. Keep our faith in music, because now the most, let's say, sad part of the industry is that music comes at the end. You know, everybody talks about the venue, the sound, the lights, uh, the girls, the boys, and I don't listen about music. You know, it's not it's not something. It's something that really hurts. At at the other on but it has, there's a flip side on this coin, that we are lucky to have experienced what we experienced back in our days. Although, so I don't like to put a lot of drama in this. There are still amazing parties all over the world. There are people trying to maintain the culture in the right path, and I think we, as like, let's say, older people, or we've been in this game a lot of time. I mean, the most successful and the most recognizable people in this game, they own to this culture to do things a little bit different and maintain things as much as they can in the right path.
No, absolutely. And when I look at your DJ career, and even when I think about how I first got exposed to you, one of the biggest compliments I think I can give to you is um, when I first met you, I had no idea where you were from. And what I mean by
Okay.
that is this. I want to pick your brain about what it's been like to travel to other cities, relocate to other cities, other countries, and earn the trust of the dance floors there. Because you've been all around and you have these really, really strong relationships with clubbers in many different countries. You're
Yes.
embraced by uh, South Americans, the Argentinian scene with your close relationship with Beat. You've been in Barcelona, like you were saying, for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear about your adventures out to New York, where you first played with Hernan. But something
Yeah.
really, that just blows my mind that you've been able to create these really strong bonds with dance floors of all different cultures and countries.
Yeah. So I left Greece. I was born and raised in Greece. And then, as I said, I was lucky enough to become resident. Actually, this is funny because the guy I mentioned before, the owner of the clubs I used to be resident, he was just calling me after a long time. Anyways, so um, I'm ambitious guy. So let's say I felt that, like, I reached the top of the of my standards in Greece, like very young when I was 23. And also, I'm lucky enough 20 years later, 23 almost, to be able to do what I do and live by that and have a very, very decent life, privileged life, I would say. So by playing music. But then I decided that maybe I always knew maybe I need a backup. Maybe this plan of live full time as a DJ won't work. So I was already studying communication arts, and my dream was to live in New York. So I moved there. I was lucky enough that my parents, could help me financially to do that. So I went to New York to finish my studies there, and at the same time, my relation with Hernan was already active playing. We met in Athens where I was resident at venue. So when I moved to New York, she she was really liking what I did, and she said maybe I can help you out and give you, you can play with me. When we did the various gigs in North America, in Miami, Mansion, Miami, legendary club as well. Crowbar, New York was my first international gig, which is something to worth mentioning. We did Atlanta, we did Washington many times. So yeah, I was, sometimes, all the dots come together and things work for you really well. And but I think that, of course, I'm grateful to Hernan for his trust and everything he did for me because he helped me a lot. But I think I was doing my part really good as well. I think at this time, music mattered, So a good DJ, he will get, not always, because life is unfair in general, but most of the times, if you were doing your part well, you could get your opportunities and you could demonstrate if you're a good DJ, and then you could advance to get more gigs and etc.
Yeah.
So this is how, and then I, but then it wasn't the best time for the underground sound, let's say, in the United States because it's the beginning of the EDM, and at the same time, hip hop, and it was really really big, and commercial hip hop, not the founding fathers, let's say. So electronic dance music was not so, it was popular, but it was not in its best moment. So Hernan at this time, he was living in Barcelona. I said, "Why? What are you doing here? Why don't you move back to Europe?" I went to Barcelona. Barcelona, it's very similar to Greece. I really love the everything. It's like it's. I felt like home in a different country. So I went there, and I'm still there. I'm still living there. And also when I went to Barcelona, because people, that's why I told you patience. For many years, I didn't do it. I wasn't playing in Barcelona at all because it was only techno, tech house. There's no space at all for our sound. We were used to do some suit beat parties during off sonar season and stuff like that, but maybe I would do 1, 2 gigs per year. And then, like 6 years ago, I mean, let's say I spent 7, 8 years in Barcelona with nothing regular, no residency, nothing. And then I got involved in a project called NOM, which is till today it's going strong. And I became resident there. And but the thing changed. A lot of Argentinians moved in Barcelona. There was a space in the market. I saw this space with a lot of with the other people were involved in the project, and then we built something amazing. Something amazing. I mean, it's Barcelona became like a small Buenos Aires, and people, all of the people that they follow you, they know that Buenos Aires, Argentina is probably the best crowd in the world, one of the best for sure. So that's why I tell you, patience. Things are changing. You have to be ready to grab your chance, and don't sell out so easy.
But you're a true professional when it comes to being a DJ. And one thing, maybe more on the technical side of DJing, or at least in the preparation the side of DJing, I'm asking more and more DJs about this because,
Yes.
like you were saying before, increasingly with social media and everything that goes into building a music career, it feels like music comes last. So,
Yeah.
just in terms of your day to day,
Yes.
with everything going on, how are you staying on top of what matters, which is the music? Like, what are your habits that you've built when it comes to listening to music, music discovery? And as so many DJs tell me, DJing is not like riding a bike. It's something you continually have to do to stay on top of your game on a week by week basis, even when it comes to music discovery and being in that flow. So I'm just curious, like, as someone who's had such a long career, how do you
Yeah.
stay on top of your music? How are you, once you're kind of taking in and finding what you like, how are you organizing it? And how are you just going up to the booth feeling confident and prepared?
Okay, the recipe is one. You have to listen as much music as you can constantly. You have to be, you know, I try to listen 3 hours per day. If I skip a day, I will try to make up for it. And I think we learned in in this way, there's no other way. You have to, to know your shit, as they say. You have to really know your music, and now it's way more difficult because it's so much music. You get so much music comes out. I'm making a lot of notes in record box because, to be honest, I don't remember titles anymore. I mean, it's very difficult for me to remember titles. So, I try to categorize the styles in the best possible way that when I play, I can recognize what is what. So I think studying your music, making the right notes, and it's the key. It's the only way to do it. And for us, it's more complicated because, as we know, we do like long sets, like 3 hours. Three hours is a short set. When I see 3 hours extended set, I get I want to vomit. Anyway, so um, I think this is the way. You have to listen music, and you have to do it constantly, and you have to re-listen. What I do, I get all the promos. I try to give like a priority, let's say, to the people that they send me on my email, music that they're doing. So, because I think it's very important to them, young people, not only young people, older people as well. I have a guy that he's now almost 50 years old. He sent me. He said, I recently started doing some music. He sent me some amazing tracks. I couldn't believe it was the first track he ever made. Anyway, so and then yes, it's not like a bicycle because every gig is different. Even when you play at the same place, even if you have a residency. So my biggest problem, and I think this goes for everyone, is when I have let's say now I stayed in the studio for in May. I didn't do a single gig. So now when I get back to the booth, I need some time to get back to where I was. I need some time. I need some time. I mean, the first 2, 3 gigs, they are kind of, let's say, getting back on shape. Unfortunately for the places I'm playing, but it's something I cannot control. Even if I practice, because we don't do playlists. Okay, we do a playlist and we select from our playlist, but we don't follow like faithfully. I'm gonna play those records. That's it. So for me, it's very difficult when I have like a period of absence, like a month, which is the top, let's say. Then I need 2, 3 gigs to get back on track. But listening to music, listen to your stuff, know your stuff, and go for it.
Yeah,
There's
man.
no other tricks. There's no other tricks.
Yeah. Last question I have is,
Yes.
you're so June 15th, you're celebrating 20 years. What is, it's not a retirement, obviously. So
No.
what my,
Hopefully.
yeah, I know, but what's keeping you maybe stoked on DJing moving forward as someone who's been in it for so long? I think a lot of people, it's very rare for someone to be in the same profession for 20 years. Let's say that.
Yeah.
But how are you keeping this thing that you do, your job, fresh for you so that you always can be, I don't know, like have that artistic inspiration to continue to push boundaries, at least for yourself?
Well, listen, I never felt DJing as my job. I never felt like working. I never complained about traveling. Yes, traveling can be tiring. It can be exhausting sometimes. But we are blessed people that we are able to live and do what we love. And I think from me until the top, and everybody makes decent or crazy money. So there's nothing to complain here. Music is my life, and maybe it's a very classic thing to say, but it is. I wouldn't. I can't, it's impossible to imagine my life without music. So what I do, it feeds my soul. Of course, things are not as romantic as as they sound because uh, unfortunately you have to put your romantic part into some professional uh, path as well. There are moments you have to do things that you don't like 100%. Nobody does what he likes 100%, even if he doesn't admit it. So what I do, I'm trying to stay focused on my path. I try to be faithful on my principles when it has to do with music, and I try to be grateful every day, and there's nothing else that I could do. I mean, if something goes the other way and I'm not able, people they don't call me anymore to play music, I will still play music. Maybe for you, for my friends, or I will pay to play music. I'm confident in my music. I love playing music, and I think this is it. Yes, I'm not retiring. I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating. It's it's as I said and you said very well. It's a production. The whole production is mine. I'm doing this to celebrate 100% with my people in my hometown, with a format that I never did in my hometown, and it was, let's say, something that I really wanted to do. And this, mm, the day after the 15th of June, we get back to do whatever we were doing before, listening to music, trying to share music with more people, trying to travel with our music in different parts of the world, and it's a constant dream that we are living. We don't have to forget this.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. So, just thank you so much for joining today. Thanks for sharing your story. I mean, if there's like, a handful of events that I could go to in the entire world this summer, I think this 20-year celebration of yours would be right at the top. So I hope it goes super well. I'm really excited to hear from the clubbers that go to it. And yeah,
Okay,
just
man.
have a blast with it. And thanks so much for spending so much time with me today.
Thanks for having me, man. Blessings.